Hi, everybody. Janet Eichorst, welcome. Today, I want to talk about angst. You could say angst, grief, despair, frustration, any of these emotions or experiences that are kind of intense that while we're in these human bodysuits, we feel. And the reason I want to talk about this is because how we navigate them matters. It really does. So let me give you an example. I live in an apartment complex. I never thought I'd be in an apartment again, and here I am, 5 years now. There are pros and cons to living here. The community is great. I love having a community. My dog loves having a community. There's these big, beautiful trees and lots of landscaping and bushes, and there's lots of room in between the buildings of this complex, which I'm finding is not necessarily common as I've looked at other places to live. Pros, the cons. This is the one I want to talk about that kind of just gets me. The watering system for the plants is less than adequate. As a matter of fact, for this year, the maintenance guy that was here until a couple weeks ago would turn it on manually every other day or so. But to my set of buildings and the ones behind me, so almost like half of the complex, he couldn't find out how to turn it on. This drives me bonkers. I love plants. I love Mother Earth. So the entire 5 years that I've lived here, I have slowly but surely watched a lot of these big, beautiful bushes die due to lack of water. I mean, I'm talking anybody that knows about bushes or greenery, photina, these amazing 5.5 foot, probably tall and wide bushes that lined one of the entrances. Just gorgeous bushes. I've watched them die. And now I don't think there's any of those left. And talk about angst. So, what did I do about it? Well, I'm into trying to work towards solutions. So, I contacted management, and not in an aggressive, inappropriate way, just saying that this is a problem and can you fix it? And I've been doing this consistently for 5 years now. With any new person that comes in, there's been a lot of turnover with maintenance people and with property managers. And even when like the regional manager was here, I was like, oh, can you fix this? So anyway, I have angst. I have sadness. I have taken the action to try to get it resolved. The bushes and the trees in front of my apartment, which there's a lot of them. I have a pretty nice arrangement of bushes and these huge pine trees outside of my place. I personally water those, and that's it. That's all I can do. And today, I realized I feel sad about this now. The monsoons are here. And so we've gotten rain. In the last couple weeks since that last maintenance guy got fired, I don't think the plants have been watered at all. And we have temperatures 105, 106 here in Cottonwood, so they're thirsty. And today it rained, and I was so happy that we are getting rain, the smells, just the beauty, the sound. And as I walk my dog during the breaks in the rain, I looked at these bushes that were brown on their leaves. And I thought, well, I don't know. I felt another level of sadness, and I felt grateful that they got water. And these are the kind of things that, happen all the time in our lives. There's things that are really important to us. One of the reasons I like living in this complex is because of all the trees and the bushes, right? It's a value system of mine. And when they're not taken care of, when they're neglected, that matters to me, right? I feel anger sometimes. I felt anger, angst, grief, sadness, hopelessness, literally. And what happens when these emotions come up like this, they kind of like go through our systems, and any similar emotions from any point in time where I have had that experience, those are ripe and they come up to be released, really, transmuted, alchemized. And so, in this particular situation, I live here. So it's a daily situation where I see these plants not being taken care of. I see these plants dying. And I know there's so many different scenarios in our world where we get exposed to this type of experience. You know, I've watched people die of addictions. I've watched people doing destructive, self-destructive behavior and have been completely powerless to change it. I watch our world, people being murdered, people being killed, people laughing and cheering people on for killing other people. That just on some level breaks my heart as a human, because I carry so much humanity and I really love people. I love life. I just do. And so all these different experiences we get to, as these brilliant, sovereign, divine beings here, discover how to navigate it. So as I said, I'm a proponent of solutions. So if there's something I can do to take positive action, that's my first choice. When those get exhausted, and even if there is a solution, I still get to process whatever that emotion is. And perspective matters. If I can't find a perspective where, let me say it this way and the other way, if my perspective causes me misery and greater suffering, I need to do something differently, right? Pure emotion is pure emotion. We're meant to feel it. We're meant to let it pass through us and not hang on to it. Right? Now that's challenging when it's a repetitive situation, right? So in those cases, we all get to come up with a way of navigating it where we can not go insane, not implode or explode, right? And still live a great life. So I get to admit my level of powerlessness, right? I don't know why this company, this management company, and the owners of this building can't get their act together and take care of these plants. It's not my job. So if these plants are going to die as a result of someone else's neglect, I get to find a way inside myself to accept that. That's between the owners, the management company, the plants, and God, right? And I say that kind of in jest, but I'm not, right? It's not my business. And that's true with people that we love, that we see harming themselves, whether it's an addictive situation, whether we see somebody we love that's in the process of dying, and perhaps, we get all kinds of emotions when people pass and when they're in the process of passing. You know, as a divine being, as a human, I'm going to have emotions. And the more sort of God consciousness that I hold, the easier it is to be present to whatever is happening. No matter how deep the angst, no matter how deep the pain, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's physical pain. I've often said that physical pain without that divine connection, that divine access, is torture. Physical pain with that divine access, that divine connection, is possible. Without that level, there's a whole nother level of torture. Without knowing that divine spark, knowing that's within me, and that even in the midst of the most awful situations, there's a level of all is well. My consciousness as a human being in this body is limited. I cannot see all things, nor do I know all things. I know a heck of a lot, right? I do. And there's a lot I don't know. So determining what's sort of mine, what's under my kind of field of influence, I'll say. Now, mind you, I pray for those plants. I pray for the people that manage the property, right? I see those plants and I appreciate them and I appreciate Gaia and I appreciate all that. I give them my love. When I water my plants, I imagine all those other plants of the complex being watered too. Right? So I do what I know how to do, and I love as deeply as I can love, and then I get to let it go. The outcome is not up to me. This is a really big metaphor. I am not responsible for the outcomes. I am responsible for using all of my abilities, all my resources, and sometimes not so great. You know, sometimes I can come to a level of peace about the plants, and sometimes I'm like, blah, 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 you know, swearing about it. You know, and sometimes I wasn't even very nice. I mean, maybe a little more forceful than I typically am versus being diplomatic to the people that are supposed to take care of these things, right? And I think I have a greater idea now of what's actually happening, but it doesn't matter, you know, because that's not my job to do that. So differentiating what is in my sphere of influence and taking action where appropriate, that's it, man. And knowing that I don't know everything. And I know disasters that have happened, I mean, they happen here. That kind of stuff happens here. Stuff where I feel grief, where I feel anger, where I feel angst. Yeah. And I feel it, and I let it pass through me to the best of my ability, and I might feel it, and I may need to feel victimized for a while, and sometimes it's messy. Yeah. And also, I know that God force is here always. Always. And there's this really beautiful thing that happens that when you practice that enough, there's more access, I want to say, to that knowing that all is well and God, all of creation, consciousness is always here working its magic, even when it feels awful, when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm so pissed off, when I just want to scream, when I can't take it anymore. And the monsoons also brought that out for me too. There's that feeling of sometimes it's like, I can't take this anymore. And the monsoon season, for those of you that don't know, in Arizona, the monsoons are they're magic because we get sun most days of the year. And depending on where you are in Arizona, you might get extreme heat. And even when I lived in Prescott, which was a couple thousand feet higher, which means cooler, there's still, like right before the monsoon start, there's this heat that builds up. And it's just like, ugh. And here in Cottonwood, I mean, 105, 106, 107, 108. My car says 111. I was like, I can't take it anymore. And that heat buildup is part of the process that starts the monsoon season. And so, yeah, that's, you know, there are those cycles where sometimes things go extremes. And we know this as we're resolving polarity here. Sometimes we go all the way over here, and then sometimes we go all the way over here. And then it comes to a place beyond that polarity, where that polarity isn't a thing anymore. Right? And that happens with our emotions too. Although I'm pretty sure as long as I'm in a human body, I'm still going to get pissed off, right? I mean, there's still going to be occasional things that'll just be like, rah, you know, and I know rage, I know fury, I know these emotions, and they can be very cathartic. I mean, I remember the first time I allowed myself to feel the degree of anger that I was feeling, and I just let it rip. And I couldn't believe how much better I felt afterwards. And when I allow myself to not fight with the feeling, I don't like to fight with my feelings because you know what? that just makes it harder and worse. I still probably will sometimes, right? But that's not my first choice, right? And I'm better at doing that less and less because we learn through our trial and error earth here, what works and what doesn't. So I find an appropriate space in an appropriate way for me to be present to whatever I'm feeling, right? So I don't have to take it out on anybody else, right? Create any more karma that gets to be resolved, right? We create karma, it goes back, and sometimes it comes back immediately, and sometimes it takes a while to cycle around. But what we put out there does eventually get resolved and come back to us, right? Like that's my responsibility. My creations are mine, right? And that includes these emotional outbursts that I could have. And you guys have seen me on this podcast, those of you that have followed me a bit. Sometimes I get a little fired up, and that's generally about, how it goes. I don't generally rant very much. I might occasionally get into one if something happens, but generally I'm pretty even keel because I've learned, and this life force within me is so real and palpable. And it's that thing that I've talked about too. It's like my soul knows what my soul's doing. And so sometimes I act the right way, even though my mind's telling me other things. And it's just like this kind of autopilot clicks in oftentimes. Where it's just like, nope, my mind's telling me this, but I'm doing the right thing. Because my body, my being, my divinity, my consciousness is here enough that that's what's going to happen. And I don't do it perfectly, right? I screw up and I got to clean up too, right? That's okay, right? That's what happens on this planet Earth. So this whole idea about how I deal with situations that are super challenging, super challenging. Don't fight it, right? Come up with a perspective, or I can be okay with it. Know that I'm not in charge of everything. Right? I want to do a really great job at what my kind of assignments are, I want to say. And this is on a soul level. This isn't, it's on a soul level. I'm talking about the big picture thing, right? I get to have these really incredible experiences as a soul here, and I get to create really cool stuff, and I get to have really cool interactions, and I get to experience the depth of what being a human is, which sometimes feels like my whole body is lit up with energy due to some emotion. And that's power. I tell you what, there's some of these emotions that are so powerful that they can literally shift reality so quickly and so powerfully. And we can use our emotions, that angst, that upsetness, we can use it and channel that into positive ways, right? And that's what we all want, right? We don't want to go around creating more harm or more, whatever, destruction of any way, shape, or form. So if you, or when you, maybe I should say, have those emotions, just take a breath, right? And maybe a few 100,000, right? And just see if you can feel your version, your inner God consciousness. Tap into that, focus on that a bit, and breathe. That right there can do so much to change the dynamic. That's where we get the direction of what is there positive action, is there solution-oriented action that I can take? Is this about me just holding love for myself? Is this just about me holding love for other and the all, and knowing that this is a pretty messed up situation? And that, really that kind of cliched expression, love always wins, because it does. The power of that love, that pure life force energy, is the dominant force. And we are all here, you listening and watching me, are here getting ourselves in greater alignment to work with that power in beautiful, brilliant ways. So big compassion for yourself if you're going through any of those challenging moments. If you are just rocking it, rock it, right? That's what I say. So much love to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please like, please subscribe. Until next time, take great care. Bye for now.